If you look at the way that this cord lock is and you look inside, you can see that there's a brass roller and there's also a white plastic roller. And looking in the top, you can see another plastic roller, and there's the one we just saw from the bottom. If I try to thread this from the bottom up, which some people do, and you can do it that way, but I find that that's much more difficult. You can see this roller moving around inside there. So if I have the cord lock set like this and I try to thread, I can't really see where I'm going. And I certainly don't want it like this because the roller will fall down in there and then I won't be able to get the cord in. So what I like to do is leave it off of the board and then go ahead and thread. And I'm going to take the cord that comes from the farthest away and I'll put it in the large opening. And I'm going to pull it up, and I can see right down inside there. Now if this was attached to the board, this would be very difficult to do. So I'll go ahead and poke that down, and I can see where it's coming through. And if I want to move it into a different slot, I can pull it back out a little bit. And I can actually see the wires through here too. Now if you have trouble threading this, you might want to melt the end of that cord with a lighter. You can also use tweezers to grab it. These are our stainless steel tweezers and they work quite well for this application. So that was very easy, and you can see how that cord goes down inside there. And you can see too, as I'm pulling it, it's not locking. And occasionally we'll get a call and someone will say, my cord lock isn't working. Well, your shade has to be installed or in an upright position. You must also have a weight bar in your shade in order to have this lock. So even if I have it up like this, you can see that it's moving, and that's because there's no weight holding it back. There isn't any resistance. So again, I'm coming through this large opening, up through the top, and then I'm going to go right down in there. And if you need to, you can take the tweezers and move the cord over to the side. We'll push that right down in there. And you can see where it comes out. I'm going to redirect that so I can get it in the middle. You want to make sure that your cords aren't crossing either. I can even reach up in here. You can see the cord is right here. I can reach up with the tweezers and position it so I can pull it right through that middle slot. You can use multiple cords in these slots, but if I've got a cord lock that has only 3 cords, I want to make sure that each one of these cords is in a different slot. So I've got 2 of them on. Then I'll go ahead and I'll thread this. I want to point out that whenever you use screw eyes, you want to make sure before you install them that your cord can freely slide. Occasionally we'll get a call and someone will say that their cord has frayed, and really the only reason that that should happen is if you happen to have a small burr or a defect in the screw eye. It does not happen very often, but if you do have a shade that has some fraying in the cord, that's the first thing that you should check. Again, this will thread through, and this is going to go through the smaller hole. And I'll pull it right up through here. And I want that to come out this last opening. I can move those out of the way. You can see how easy this slides in. And there it is. So I've got my cord lock threaded, and now I can go ahead and get it installed on the board. Much easier than if I were to try to do that already installed on the board. Lay it out, make sure it's the way that I want it, and then we'll go ahead and we'll screw it down. You want to make sure when you do this too that you pull the cords out of the way. I'll line up my marks. And there you go. I want to point out too that this is our magnetic bit, the hex head bit that works really well, holds that screw in there. You can see each cord comes through a separate slot here. And one very important thing I want to point out too, when you have multiple cords, you want to make sure that they aren't bunching up here. This shade is small, so it's not an issue, but if you had several cords coming through this hole, you want to make sure that each cord comes through nice and smooth. And before I go any further, I want to pick my shade up, and I just want to test it out. And again, I want to point out that we've got the orbs on the bottom, and what's great about these is that after you get your cord lock in and you get this knotted, if you need to make an adjustment and make the cord a little longer or a little shorter, you can do so with the orbs very easily. So as you can see, the cord lock operates very smoothly. And now the last step is to trim my cords so that they're even. And I have a lot of choices as far as using a cord condenser or a different type of cord tassel. And we'll go ahead and we'll lay the shade back down. And I'm going to cut these all evenly. I'll cut them off, and even if they're not perfect, that's fine. After I finish up with the shade, when we get the cord condenser on here and the pull, then I can adjust the cords with the orbs. And that's a look at our cord locks and pulleys.